I have one last topic to bring up. And I know how much everybody loves me bringing up my superheroes. And I am bringing it up, but again, it's only because I'm using it as a gateway to the more relevant topic, which is a topic I think you like talking about, sir. Violence.
Let's go.
Um, First off, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I've not read anything about this. I have a idea, but I've not seen my idea put in any publications. So, oh no, oh, Sparrow.
Hey, no problem, Sparrow. I thank you for your 15 months. We have once again, Ian, the best fan base and the best
We do.
family. I was trying to make a pun there. We're glad to have you aboard, and thank you for continuing for 15 months.
Thank you, sir. I had mentioned a couple shows ago, when Comic-Con happened and Mr. Feige came out and laid out the next few years of fucking movies that everybody's either gonna love or shit on. Now, there was 8 or 9 fucking spots that were left blank, which I assume he will fill in at the Disney convention next month. Uh Now, I bring that up because lately there's been a slew of slip ups of mentioning things that should not have been mentioned yet by celebrities involved in said projects. And I think the reason that is because they're not fucking paying attention to Comic-Con. I mean, unless they're actually fucking there, but if their shit wasn't going to get announced, obviously they're not going to be there. So they're not going to pay attention to it. So they're just like, oh yeah, my shit probably got announced, but it didn't. And they're just talking about it. I think it's like an honest mistake. But I think I know Patton Oswald had a fucking slip up about something, but I think it was just like confirming like Eternals 2, which I don't think anybody gives a fuck about. So that's fine. But the main one that everybody's been talking about lately was by Miss Rosario Dawson, and she had may or may not have accidentally mentioned that they're bringing back the Punisher, like the Netflix series Punisher with Burt Benthenol, blah, blah, blah. I can't pronounce his name.
John Bernthal?
Yeah,
Burnt?
yeah,
I'm just going to call him friend.
yes. Happy mistakes. Now, whether or not that shit's happening or not is irrelevant. The main question being had by this is, and I don't know if you watched the 2 seasons of The Punisher on Netflix.
I didn't get
I
to.
did. They were particularly good. Very violent, as it should be,
As it
as it
should be.
fucking should be. What's Disney gonna? You can't Disney version this Punisher, especially in a climate right, because we made all those jokes about all those warnings on all those shows and stuff, and then you just keep the warning in the fucking corner of the show the whole episode,
It's
every
like
episode.
Mystery Science Theater 3000. There's just a guy with a sign at the bottom of the screen telling you.
um but uh here he should never, yeah, exactly,
I
I agree, D.
100% agree.
But my only arguments against them Disneyfying Frank Castle, if you will. Um,
hmm
the first 2 seasons of the Netflix, or the actual 2 seasons that have already been made by Netflix, are up on Disney Plus to watch in their entirety. Like, nothing's been cut. they are making a Deadpool 3. They've not officially announced it, but they've talked about it. It is fucking happening. And they're not changing the style of Deadpool. Like, he will still cuss and make it. It's Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool as always. They're keeping that the same.
Perfect.
So, what's one to do in this type of situation where you have a character like the Punisher, and especially with the events that have gone on in the last couple months, and you're Disney, primarily known now, like I said, a lot of fucking people, Disney is not, yeah, everybody's just like, oh no, how would Disney, but for years, this isn't anything fucking new. Disney has had their hand in so many other companies that just aren't called Disney. Like, technically, if I'm not mistaken, and I think I mentioned this during one of the movies we were watching, but I double checked and I do believe it is true. Disney at one point had their hand in Miramax, so a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies could be considered fucking Disney movies.
Sydney Prescott is a Disney princess technically.
Technically, there you go.
Yeah, they don't shy away from necessarily picking it up. The thing is, for their brand image, they obviously don't necessarily want to go down that route. But once you pick up 20th Century Fox and
that Prey movie,
Die Hard. I mean, for fuck's sake, Die Hard, for not having as much violence in it as the sequel, it is nasty violence. It is palpable violence.
I've never wanted a team up more badly than John McClane and Prince Charming.
And you could technically have it now. I think they have to know their audience, and if they pay attention to the subject matter of what the Punisher is, I think to neuter that in any way would be detrimental to it, and they know it would fail. Unless that's what they're trying to do, so they don't have to deal with the IP anymore, or they can reboot the IP. But from what I know, the response over that show was so overwhelmingly positive that if they do that, it's going to be obvious, and people are going to tune out.
Well,
at that point.
Let me ask you this: as somebody who's watched as many movies as you have, what is a clear difference between an R movie and a PG-13 movie in terms of violence?
Oh.
Well. Generally.
Generally speaking, it is let's say there's a gunfight.
Okay.
It's going to be how the bullets are delivered and how often they are. Because the MPAA, we've talked about it before, they have no consistency with how they have their standards on things. So, if you show a bullet hit and it's on screen for too long, you're going to start creeping into R territory. If you show a bullet hit and it's fast, or it hits a vest, or something like that, or there's very little blood, or there's no squib, I'm thinking back prior to Sam Peckinpah days, you would probably be leaning more towards PG-13. But the second that red starts to drip out, or splatter, or actually splatter's probably worse. Drip out's not as bad, but if it makes a Jackson Pollock painting on the wall, then you're teetering on R territory, and depending on how far you take it, you're teetering on X/NC-17 as well.
Yeah. It's going to be weird. I mean, I think people's real taste of it they're going to get is because they've already officially announced that they're bringing back Daredevil, the Matthew Cox Daredevil. Now, it's him as the character, and a lot of the actors from that show are going to be in this new show. There seems to be some sort of speculation as to whether or not this is the exact identical character from the Netflix series. as it's going to be in this one or not. But for that show, it was definitely it didn't shy away from it. You're introduced to the Punisher in Daredevil before Punisher gets his own show.
I do remember that.
Daredevil's fucking awesome. But we will see what type of toned downness they put in that. And that I think will be a good gauge. Now, on the other hand, going back to Obi-Wan,
Motherfucker.
there's a scene. Now, I'm not saying there's a lot of blood or anything like that, but there's a couple scenes in that series that the violence factor goes a little bit higher than what you would expect a current Disney to do with Star Wars right now. Like, you see Darth Vader kill a kid with the Force. There's no blood, but he fucking snaps the neck. And you see the kid like and die. You know what I mean?
They might be using that to test the waters, and that's what I thought they were going to do with Mandalorian too, because Mandalorian is a Western, and it is in particular of the brand that it feels like. Well, it also feels like a samurai movie, but that's a conversation for a different day. It feels like an Italian one. It feels like a Sergio Leone.
Mandalorian really kind of gives me some Firefly vibes, but that too is also set up kind of like a Western.
Yeah, it's rooted in ye old West, and it does it well. But even season 1 of Mandalorian, because I still haven't seen season 2 because I'm a piece of shit. But we'll get to that later as well. It's violent. What do you expect from a bounty hunter? It's violent.
But one of the other scenes that came to mind from Obi-Wan is just a quick scene where he fucking throws a stormtrooper, and the stormtrooper lands across like a laser beam gate, and it like separates him, cuts him in half. You see that shit.
Yeah, they've been doing long-term planning for Punisher, I guess, because
like honestly, like, okay, so as much as I talk shit in a fun way about that epic scene in Rogue One with Vader, there are a lot of moments in the Obi-Wan series where I'm like, somebody was trying to up that, or like, fucking like, oh yeah, well, fuck you, I'm gonna do this. And it so I think the real question might be not how much violence they're going to take out, but how much violence they're going to leave in. That might be the real question.
Well, actually, this is fully what I expect. They're going to have a watered down version that's not on parental lock, and they're going to have the whole hog version on that's available for the adult profiles, because remember, if I recall correctly, that's how they do Disney, right? You can have a kid profile and an adult profile like you have with HBO and all of that too.
Once they added the Netflix, like the Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Punisher and all that, once they added that to Disney Plus, after it updated and I went in to log in, it said in order to watch the new shit that's been added, I had to up my parental fucking shit. I had to like reset the profile.
and that may be their simple solution. It's going to be like, hey, maybe pay attention to what your kids are watching right now, and put the parental lock on it.
My kids can go through the whole Marvel section and see all that stuff, but all the Netflix shit's not in there.
Nah. That's how they're going to take the liability off of it, because I know Disney has that kid friendly thing that they have to keep up, but at the same time, let's be real. Bambi is dark as fuck, and that will traumatize you for life. I am a walking example of that.
Well, shit. I mean, the one thing that I always pointed to that I always thought was pretty like creepy as fuck, that's a little bit even more modern, is the three kid characters in Nightmare Before Christmas, the Lock, Shock, and whatever they are. Like, that's supposed to be how they died and when they were alive. You know what I mean? Like, you've heard that story. So it's like, and I'm like, shit. And then, of course, there's the big cock on the Little Mermaid cover.
Well,
But that's a discussion for another day.
and the titty balls in Rescuers Down Under on the TV in the background. Yep.
Disney, they love children.